Yeah, you guys all know it's end of season Overwatch. There's no content. So I decided to cause some chaos and create my own content. And so thus I asked the Overwatch community, how do you fix tank in Overwatch 2 without going back to 6v6? Because I thought about this myself recently. Somewhat recently. I was thinking, you know, I'm not gonna lie. I was vibing one night. And I was sitting there and I was like, damn, you know, for years, I've always been very confident that I knew a lot about Overwatch. Whether you agree or disagree with me, honestly, doesn't really matter. To sit there, you can't, if you sit there and say, no, you don't know anything, I don't think you're being truthful. You know, you can disagree with my takes, you can disagree with whatever, but like, I have a pretty damn good track record. And so I sat there and thought about it, and I said, how would I fix tank if you handed me the wheel? And I'm actually not sure if I could. I genuinely am not sure if I could at this point. After so much time, after all the reworks, after all the heroes feel, I'm not sure if I could fix it. I have a theory. Basically like a passive that makes it so it's like a resistance passive, right? So instead of just CC, it's anti-sleep, CC, anytime like an ability hits you, right? Like it's like less impactful on you. But even that, I'm not even sure if it would, because hell, I was watching Emong today and he was fine. He was struggling. You just stand there. He makes jokes about it. He calls it a spectator sport. So I decided to ask, you know, everyone always says they're much smarter than me and they know more than me. And there are some people in here that are smart as shit, but I just figured I'd ask, hey, what would you do? And there's over 1,000 replies. And if you look up here, I already have a bunch of replies pre-selected, because going through 1,000 replies is one, not going to happen. And two, scrolling through Twitter is terrifying, because porn bot might just jump out of a tree or something like, oh, titties, and you're like, ah, you just unbanned, and then there goes my career, right? And it's like, what the fuck am I gonna do at that point? You know what I mean? Like, I'm not dealing with that shit. So I went through, and mods helped me out with this, and went through, and someone got some of the best responses. You know what? If you've been on Twitter recently, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And go through and see, and there's a couple good ones right here, right off the bat. And I'll go into Spillas because I want to go to Spillas. Spillas always has really good takes. But right off the bat, we got Deku saying, trick question, you can't. And I feel like I just got to go to Frogger really quick. Because what the f is this? The game doesn't punish consistent counter swapping, so they should add an in-game mechanic that if you're counter swapping too much, it'll affect your credit score. And if you do it too much, Aaron Keller will show up to your house and make you homeless. You know, honestly, that's probably one of the better ideas I've heard. He's kind of onto something. The other thing I would add to this, and this is an Emon classic, I would just, you know, limit their iPad time from 2 hours to 1 hour. You know, if you constantly counter swap, then your computer time goes down from 2 or 3 hours a day to 1 hour a day. That way, we don't have to deal with them counter swapping so much. So, sounds good to me. Okay, so I wanted to get that one out of the way before we get into actual serious ones. But first up, we had Spillo, who responded with a 4 steps. Spy low, spy low. Yeah, I'm committed at this point. You have to understand, I've known Spillo since Uprising Academy days, and I called him Spillo then, and he did not correct me. So yeah, I know it's Spylo. Unfortunately, my brain is hardwired to say Spillo, and I'm pretty sure I remember calling him Spillo when I met him IRL in the Uprising Academy corner of the building. And so I gotta keep it consistent at this point. I have to. So Spillo comes in and says, increase the skill floor on brain dead DPS heroes like Bastion Reaper. I read a take somewhat recently where somebody said, you know, Overwatch wouldn't be so annoying if it was something along the lines of that. It was like, it wouldn't be so annoying if every high skill character player didn't shit talk every other character. And I was like, you know, I kind of understand that, right? Because like, you get like the Doom players who are like, you know, complain about their hero being broken, which fair, it kind of is. But then you sometimes have like, oh, I did all these things, didn't get any kills. It's like, yeah, well, neither would you on Orisa or something. You know, you wouldn't get those kills anyways. But the thing is, the difference is like you have to all in for a chance. They just stand there and don't move. And it's not like I'm disagreeing. They probably deserve it, the kill. But it's, you know, it's not just you. Everyone kind of deals with that. So when you say skill floor on brain dead heroes like Bastion Reaper, I I sit there and go, I don't know, because at what point do you make our game too complex to the point where, unless you've already been a player for many years, nobody wants to try it? And I'm not saying, you know, like, we should casualize this game and make it super casual. No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that, like, not every hero needs to be the most mechanically intensive, insane character in the game. But as a caveat of that, those characters should not be buffed to the point where they dominate the game because they simply just have the numbers to dominate everyone else, because they're so two-dimensional that to make them valuable, right, they have to buff the numbers up, and that can get a really dangerous time. Just to finish on my point, I'm not hugely in favor of this. I understand the premise though. Tweak the tank passive to account for things like anti-nade, discord, DPS passive, and other debuffs. Yes. Spin. If you saw my thing, what I was saying at the very beginning, this is kind of along the lines of what I was already thinking, and I've said this previously before someone goes, oh, you just read his take. Dude, if you've been watching me for a while, you know that, like, I've had that hit take in the past. And the thing you'll notice about a lot of, like, really high-level players or people that, like, either coach or do stuff at, like, really high level, a lot of times we're pretty similar in the way we think about things. We just might not agree on total numbers or play styles or heroes, or, you know what I mean? But, like, generalize when we're like, okay, some things there's a problem, we can all kind of identify it. So that's why you might see sometimes there's overlapping takes. It's not that people are stealing each other's takes, it's sometimes they just have the same opinion. Introduce counterplay to tanks that don't have CC counterplay, Doomfist Ball. So this is where, you know what's funny? I mean, someone asked me at the beginning from a YouTube stream, they super chat and they said, what do I think the ball rework's gonna be? And I said, I bet they give him some type of damage reduction. And I was joking about that because every tank in Overwatch 2 has been like this damage reduction, stand there, Mauga, Ramatra, Orisa, damage sponge, and it feels like shit. And like Hog too, even Hog kind of throws in that category too, right? And it just makes every tank like kind of lose its soul. It kind of feels like that, you know? They just lose their soul, and I don't like it. I don't really like it, so I don't totally agree with this. Oh, sorry, this one. I think that's a good way to just not want to have people play tank anymore. Adjusting tanks like Roadhog, Mauga, Orisa that are overly reliant on self-sustain for survival, even considering hitbox / mobility tweaks, and tanks like Reinhardt are missing quality of life stuff. So that's where like it kind of like 3 and 2 kind of feel a little bit like almost conflicting to me. Because yes, I think that I agree. I'm so, and I've actually talked to Blizzard about this. I got one time they're like, wait, what do you think? I'm like, dude, I'm sick of the rotation being Orisa, Sigma, Mauga. I'm sick of it. I'm so sick of it. And like, dude, I played like 700 games of ranked up until the mid-season patch, and then it became Mauga meta again. I went, yeah, I'm done. I don't want to play the game anymore. I'm done. Like, even though they patched it out pretty quick, Mauga's still low-key good, and now Orisa's OP. Right now, like, it's Orisa I'm like, I'm done. I threw my hands up and said, I'm done. I don't want to play. I'm good. I don't care what you say. I don't care if you're like, oh my god, you know, you don't even play the game. Don't care. Right? It just feels like shit. I worry about other tanks going down that route too, right? So yeah, I agree with this. I think there's certain tanks that do need quality of life stuff, like Ryan. I think you agree. I agree with this. I just think this is a little bit conflicting, 3 and 2, personally. But overall sentiment, I agree with. The overall sentiment. Finally, bonus is to consider the dopamine responses of shooting tank hitboxes and consider introducing better mitigation. This is less satisfying for tanks and or adjusting hitboxes accordingly. This, I think, is probably the greatest thing I've read. Like, out of all the things I read so far, when I click through these really quick, like making them, genuinely is so big brained. Genuinely so big brained. Because people love getting the... Like, if you ever played Tracer and you walk up and headshot somebody, it's like... It's so satisfying. It just does something to your soul, you know what I mean? So I actually agree with that. I think that could be pretty decent, so I like that. He then goes a step further to respond to some people. The only unique problem to 5v5 is the ease of access of shooting one tank, which is true, which is significantly improved by lower ROI for tank focus through the tank passive. Okay, I think he's saying if you change the tank passive, that means that you would lower the ROI, forgetting to shooting the tank the entire time. Okay, I understand. Significantly increasing the difficulty of tank counter heroes, giving tanks more mitigation options than DPS/support heroes, and even considering dopamine adjustments like hitboxes. In addition, 6v6 still had a tank focus problem. It's just the counter. What the hell is that? Oh, we're good. That scared me, I'm not gonna lie. In addition, 6v6 still had its tank focus problem. It's just the counterplay options plus difficulty of tank counters has not been scaled to account for half of the tanks on the field, even with the overall slight reduction of CC in Overwatch 2. The thing is though, in my personal opinion, they brought back half the CC. Yeah, it's not like Brig Bash all the time, but like most of it's back, right? Like we're missing May full freeze. Hinder is like the same shit for tank. Hinder just sucks versus DPS and support, but it's the same shit for tank. The only difference is you can use a cooldown or an ability during it. You still can't move for a few seconds, and it still shuts off some ults. So like, yes, Hinder 2, I guess, but like, it still feels the same. It doesn't feel much different. Yeah, and Venture's gonna have some soft CC as well. I don't know. Anyways, I do agree though, 6v6 did have its fair share of problems, and a lot of people treat 6v6 as like the savior, and I don't know if it would be. All right, let's scroll down really quick because he had another response over here. Someone said, all this to make tank a fun role again. Why are we ignoring 6v6 again? 1 in 4, well, first off, the whole point of ignoring 6v6 is to come up with a solution without going to 6v6, because everyone's like, well, let's just go 6v6. Okay, well, offer me a solution without 6v6 first, right? Like, if we can come up with a solution that's not 6v6, let's try it first, right? We're already in the 5v5. The devs are willing to try shit. Let's try to make it work. Let's not sit there and stamp our feet. Let's try, because if we try really hard and we try new shit and none of it works, then we know the answer. But if you don't give it a fair shot, we just run in circles, I think. And so Spill's response was 1 in 4 would still need to be done when reverting to 6v6, as well as a lot of work on tank synergies plus damage mitigation, stacking, etc. Going back to 6v6 isn't a magic pill that fixes things, even with more active and IMO smarter balanced team. I agree. But the problem is though, I was looking for more direct stuff. This is direct. This is direct. This kind of stuff, I don't know if I could, unless you talk like actual numbers, it'd be a little bit tough. All right, who do we got next? Bowie. So Bowie comes in and says, game's cooked. Uh-oh. All tank will ever be is counter swamp. If you don't play all the tanks, you have an increased chance of losing. We don't have the L's. Wait, we don't have the L's, so we counter pick back. Sorry, we don't like the L's. I'm stupid. So we counter pick back, and it's an endless cycle where my DPS are sucking each other off, but I'm the problem. Where are my heal? Sorry, this was a vent more than anything. Yeah, this is 100%. He's streaming, playing. You know, just lost a bad game, opened up Twitter, and boom, my tweet was the first thing on the top. And he just said, you know what? Went in. And I respect it because it's raw emotion. You know, he's not wrong. It's raw emotion. But yeah, Bowie's thing isn't really obviously constructive here. It's more of a vent. But dude, I don't want to be that guy. But every tank is struggling. All of them are struggling. And people like to pick on me and start shooting me. I get it, dude. I get it. I think I saw Emong yell at somebody for the first time today by accident. He yelled at Wanted. And it wasn't even intentional, because Wanted was looking the other way. And I felt it. I felt like, oh shit, dude, that just blows. Sometimes, dude, it is so frustrating. You sit there and do nothing. You can't even play the game. And you can't even blame anyone, right? You can't blame anyone. No, it wasn't anything serious. He was just like, it was to his left. He was just like, you need heals, but he just didn't see it. And it's like, dude, it's not serious. Like, God, you drama frogs are way too aggressive today. Relax. But the point is, though, it's like, dude, you sit there and you can't even do anything, right? It's like, even Super, the Overwatch addicted superstar, is barely playing Overwatch these days. You know what's funny is I talked to Super at Streamer Awards like a year and a half ago. 2 years ago, actually, not a year and a half. Sorry, not 2 years ago, but about a year and a quarter ago. and I was talking about Overwatch way back when. I mean, it's fine. I don't mind. And I asked him, I was like, why do you even stay on Overwatch, dude? You could go variety right now and be fine. And he's like, I just like the game. Like, I honestly just enjoy it. And that's when I believed him, because he played it all the time. Now you don't see him play it very often. And it's like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, okay. You don't feel like you have an impact on the game. It feels terrible. And you know what? I'm glad I cashed out right after the mid-season, because I feel like everyone who kept playing past mid-season has just not had a good time and like fell. But anyways, let's go next. I want to stay on Bowie for too long because his was mostly emotion. Next one was from this guy. He said, if you forced me into slavery at Blizzard and maybe balance the game, this is what I would do. DPS passive triggers 76 damage for non-tanks, 210 damage for tanks. If tanks are still exploding, increase the trigger to 280. And I looked at this and just went, what in the f did I just read? So I figured I'd at least just keep it in, just so you guys see sometimes like the shit that I see when people get mad at my takes or get mad at certain things. I'm like, dude, you guys don't understand what I'm reading, right? Like, you're getting mad that I said, like, you know, like, Mauga damage should be 4.7 instead of 4.5, and it's okay. I wouldn't say a buff, but you get the point. And it's like, no, this is what I'm reading. Like, you guys don't understand. Next up, another person. Hero bans focused on alleviating tank issues will help a lot, but not completely fix it. I kind of agree with that, but let's get into what they said. Tank chooses one ban out of each role. Pro tank counter swapping is fixed. Con, non-certain tanks get banned all the time, and non-tank players upset for not getting the shiny new feature. So there's two things here. One, I think I saw your Overwatch, Frito, tweet this out. A very similar take a couple days ago. But there's a problem here that none of you are picking up on. And the number one is you don't understand the social pressure that would come in with the tank player being the person who chooses who to ban. If your tank player doesn't ban the correct hero, they're getting flamed the entire game. That's what's gonna happen in every rank from bronze to GM. And if you have some guy who hops back on the game, they haven't been playing recently, and they hop in, you know, they're a casual player, they play in gold, and they're not up to the meta, and they walk in and they're like, oh, Orisa was powerful like a couple weeks ago, I'm gonna ban Orisa. And it's actually Mauga meta, and your teammates are going, what? Why'd you ban Orisa? You should have banned Mauga. Now you're setting up for a bad time. On top of that too, with the tanks picking it, it could end up being more biased, right? Where tanks are just going to start banning things that are annoying to them. Sombra, Kiri, right? Whatever is annoying to the tank player. But is it the correct ban for the game? No. And if you have a person who's banning, let's say a Hog OTP. Let's say you have a Hog OTP on your team, right? You have Hog OTP and they ban Orisa, right? Because they're sick of playing against Orisa players who spear them and are annoying to them, right? Because Orisa shuts down Hog pretty decently. Well, guess what? Orisa wasn't even meta. Everyone's playing Ramatra Brawl, right? And you're like, well, I don't mind about Ramatra Brawl because, like, you know, I can hook him out of his thing. But, like, your whole team's getting ass blasted, right? Because, like, you were supposed to actually ban Lucio, right? Because if you're a Hog OTP, you don't play well in Rush. So you actually want to ban Lucio so they can't run Rush at you, right? And it's like, oh, dude, it just creates, like, this wild... It creates this wild social thing that I don't think people think about, and it's happened a lot with one tank, and especially if you don't play tank, you don't get it. Only a tank gets banned from each team, and tanks choose. Pro mitigates tanks counter swapping. Oh, so only a tank gets banned. Their team comp can still counter you out of the role of many tanks. Yeah, that's just stupid. Like, if you can only ban a tank character, it's like, what? Each team picks one character from each role to ban. Players can only choose the ban from their own roles. Pro and organized play. This fixed tank counter swapping. Yeah, but this is just a shit show. This is such a shit show. That means you have 3 bans per team per game. That means 6 heroes are getting banned per game. 6 heroes getting banned per game. 2 tanks, 2 DPS, and 2 supports. And what happens if the only good supports get banned, right? Like, let's say Lucio's really good right now and Kiri's really good right now. And then you ban those, right? Well, now you're forced to what's next best. Probably that brig or on a brig. And then you just run hardcore dive and you run them down. Support would be in shambles. It'd be in shambles. It would be terrible. No one would have a good time. So yeah, I'm not a huge pro bans, and at that point with that many bans would be insane. All right, next up, I honestly don't remember any of these from here on. Tank should have passive resistance, in my opinion. I think that would help immensely. That's like Spilla's take earlier. Oh, this was a good one. I'm glad I kept this one. So Toaster used to play a lot of Overwatch way back in the day, and I thought this was a very interesting take. I'm not exaggerating when I say better HUD would be the largest effort. Quality of life and efficient improvement tanks could get. Having to constantly dart my eyes and turn my camera to get info on my team just to know a play I'm making is bad or is not that, or a play is bad or not, is not fun. A mini-map would be huge. And so you know what? I actually kind of thought mini-map was a bad idea. And when I first heard it, I was like, nah, I'm not interested. Mini-map, we don't need more clutter. And then I thought about it. After reading this, I really went, wow. There's kind of a part there that I didn't think about. And it's like the mini-map showing your teammate's position if you're not actually good at the game. And by actually good at the game, I mean like somebody who's been playing a lot and you're like, okay, I know where my Ana's sitting. I know where my Bat's probably sitting. I know what I'm running. We're running Tracer. They're probably going to be engaging from over here. And we also have a Hanzo, so I know he's like top left behind me on like the choke, right? And like, I know all of these things from game sense of all these years. But then you also have the idiots that you can't account for. They're just stupid. They just don't know. They just run in Mach 10. They're drunk. They're high. You know what I mean? You don't keep track of those. You're like, what the hell? That guy's feeding. Like, what is he doing? A HUD or a minimap would actually help that a ton. I don't know if that would make Tank a better experience, but I think it would probably be better for... Sorry, let me rephrase. Not Tank a better experience gameplay-wise, like actually getting kills, not dying, gameplay loop, but the actual effort of playing, like knowing where my team is, knowing where everyone's playing, it actually might be not a bad idea. I'm kind of about it. I'd have to see what it would look like, but I'm open to it. More than where I was before. Next up, we got another one. Imagine you give tank and maybe support smaller version of the DPS passive, so to make tanks able to capitalize off of situations, not quite overbearing as to keep tanks from being one-man army. Yeah, multiple versions of the DPS passive is real spooky. Love vids by Wi-Fi's. You got me 3.2k in an hour. TF2 fan player watch. Oh, yo, I appreciate that. Much love, dude. I hear DPS players say this a lot, and it pisses me off because DPS players always say when they talk about tanks and getting kills and doing things, they're like, "You just want to play a fat DPS." No, I don't. None of us do. We don't want to play fat DPS. No, we don't. You guys think we want to play fat DPS, and that's what the game's becoming. We didn't ask for that. I want to be able to hold space. I want to be threatening and pressuring, but like there has to be a midway point where I can somehow secure a kill if you're by yourself or whatever, while also not exploding. There has to be a middle ground in there somewhere, and I don't know where it is. But playing off-angle Arnold, you know, hiding in a corner for 3 minutes on tank feels terrible. Yeah, if they come into my little den, I might kill them. But that's not what tank was supposed to be, right? Like that was never the envision. That was never what people... not the original ideology of what it was, right? It's simple, really. Just reach an equilibrium where all tanks are perfectly balanced with each other, so there aren't counterpicks within the tank role. Then you tone back support's fighting capabilities so they can't make entire plays by themselves. Ah, yes. Ah, yes. This totally very simple thing to do. Just balance everything perfectly, and you know, don't worry about like certain heroes just, you know, having an innate advantage against others, like Sombra versus Ball, because you know you can't see her. You know, she hacks your health packs and steals your health packs from you, and you know, if you go for engages, she's waiting in the shadows to turn off your ability to even roll for 2.5 seconds. No, let's just make them all perfectly balanced, guys. Okay, first, support's got the ability to do dual DPS, making DPS lose their identity. Wouldn't say that. Then DPS got their passive, making the game hell for tanks in most cases. Now it's tanks' turns to get something, whether that power had in the beta, or it's another form of tank. Okay, so you want to talk about power in the beta? Want a fun fact? This is roll queue current day Overwatch that I'm in right now. Now give me one moment. So this is the Overwatch 2 beta, the first one, where tank felt really good. Do you notice something in the bottom left-hand corner? Bottom left-hand corner, Ryan is 650 HP. Today's day in Overwatch is at 700. And that's with every character getting massive HP buffs across the board, right? And that's also before people figured out how to play Overwatch 2 the same way. And if you've noticed, if you're really keen, you'll notice that there's actually less armor overall. You look down here, look where this armor is on the bar. Armor is the majority of the bar, while in Overwatch 2, health is the majority of the bar. So you already have power creep. You already have more people that are playing and understanding how to play the game. So you have like knowledge creep, people understanding how to play, while also those characters just fall behind, right? So like if you say something like, oh, like first beta, we're so far away from that timeline, it's like not even we can't even talk about it anymore. Anyways, though, that was way too long of a side quest than I intended, so let's just keep moving. Another one, I think balancing should focus more on damage mitigation than damage dealing. People often get focused on making big plays just because they have a big hitbox, but IMO, their job should be to distract the team because the pick potential they have. I think they kind of were cooking in the beginning, but the problem with holding space is you have to be somewhat threatening. If you're not threatening enough in that space, then it doesn't actually count. Like, they can just walk by you. You know what I mean? So it has to be somewhat threatening, just not like, you know. Do you think 5v5 was meant to combat knowledge creep? No, I think 5v5 was to combat Q times. Okay, next. Leveling out the ratio of abilities that harm tanks versus help them would be a start. Okay. Most of the good abilities for helping tank heroes come from the tank role itself, so any tank heroes that don't have these abilities are at a huge disadvantage because there's no OT next to them. I don't know about that one. Alright, next. Hero bans plus harsher swap punishment. Hero bans, this would max out at 6 different heroes per game, but can be as low as 3 bans total. Yeah, this is another hero ban one, isn't it? Yeah. Harsher swap punishment, if you swap to get a temp respawn time increased 1 to 2 seconds, you can still keep the ult charge transfer. Nah, that would just feel bad. I wouldn't do anything. Yeah, the ult charge thing is, honestly, you could probably make it zero and people would still counter swap, I think, at this point. Okay, next. Give DPS and support some of the power budget to make their own space. That way tanks don't have the only person taking all of the spam. I don't know if it'd be better for overall health of the game, but it's the only way I see tank being enjoyable. So the idea is to make DPS and supports even more tanky? Yeah, that sounds like a terrible idea. I think the philosophy of giga buffing tanks has actually been a step in the wrong direction. It makes the tank matchup define your entire team's strategy. If you're not getting value out of your tank, then you just lose the game. Homogenized characters, which is admittedly a pretty big downside. The Season 9 HP buffs were already controversial, but if there are less players per team, then each player will need to share more responsibility. Yeah, I'm not clicking more replies. I know what's in there. I have a good idea on what's in there. Yeah, if the idea is make tank more cosmetic than they already are, yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy talk. Okay, next. Tank passive 1, unstoppable, while above 80% health, gain full CC immunity. Tank passive 2, intimidate. Dealing damage slows the target's cooldown recharge by 20%. I don't like that one. I don't like this kind of stuff. That kind of stuff is no. Audio, play a lower thunk sound when hitting tanks. Establishes tanks as an area denial character, gives them a zone of control / disruption, forces the enemy team to engage them rather than just chain CC them. Lower the psychological rewards of shooting big targets for easy tank sounds. I like this last one, and the first one is interesting, but two is just wild. I can't even give that one the time of day. I'm sorry. Last one though. There's 1,000 replies on this, so if you want to see more replies, you know where to go. But I don't want to take up too much time because I feel like we're kind of already dragging it. Personally, every tank has to be viable. You can't have tanks that are only good with X team comp or X map. Every tank has to work at minimum. Do they have to be amazing? No, but you can't have unplayable tanks. Yeah, but this is easier said than done. This is so much easier said than done. And like, for example, like at Gibraltar, Ryan should not be good on Gibraltar. It's not a map for him. And that's where you start to lose the soul of characters. You can't have every character be good in every situation. When you do that, you just power creep the absolute out of some of the characters that are not that good in most scenarios, but are very good in niche scenarios. And it kind of just ruins your game, you know? So, point is though, if you want to go see more of these takes, this thing's still chugging. And there's a lot of people that have been replying to it with their own takes. You can go look, go give your own, go get in an argument with somebody if that's your thing. But, you know, I don't want to be that guy. And I know it's Twitter, so you only have so much of a response, but I feel like there wasn't anything that really hit. You know, there wasn't like a holy shit, that's a great idea, like we need to try that. It's just like a yeah, we probably should try that. That's a good idea. Like for example, like Spillo had probably the best one with the tank passive and stuff like that. But like everyone's stuff is either just like you can't, or basically like, oh, just magically balance everything. And it's like, what about specifics? And if you ask them specifics, it might be like, oh, just give Ryan 1,000 HP. And it's like, okay, dude, like you lost the plot.
In 5v5 or 6v6, you know? You still are my favorite tanker.
At least it's 17 months. I appreciate it, dude. So, anyways, though, I wanted to get other people's opinion on it because I'm not 100% sure at this point. And I hate to say it, but I feel like I didn't learn anything from this. So,